This week in the Boardroom, brought to you by NYSE Governance Services Corporate Board Member, along with Governance Knowledge Partners, the Center for Audit Quality, and Grant Thornton, and contributing partners, National Investor Relations Institute, and the Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals.
Welcome to this edition of This Week in the Boardroom. I'm TK Kerstetter, Chairman of NYSE Governance Services Corporate Board Member, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the show today. We're going to be taking a look at compensation committees and have they struck the right balance. And joining us as an expert today on the show is Kevin Lavender, who is the Compensation Chair for AmSurg Corporation, located in lovely Nashville, Tennessee. And Kevin, probably the best place to start for our audience is to first, let's take 30 seconds to sort of describe what AmSurg is and what it does.
Okay, first of all, TK, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be on your show this afternoon. AmSurg, again, located in Nashville, Tennessee, is simply an outpatient surgery center company. We are a company with revenues of approximately $1 billion a year. We partner with 1,800 physicians in over 40 states. And simply put, we provide high quality, lower cost outpatient surgery.
Well, and again, you guys have a great reputation in your space, and it's a pleasure to have you on your show. So we're here to talk about compensation committees, something near and dear to your heart.
Right.
So, you know, during the course of the last 3 years, we have actually seen companies that haven't been too affected by the say on pay. I hear a lot more conversation relative to the expectations of proxy advisors, sort of than I do to the specific say on pay, although that's not to suggest that people are very sensitive to making sure that they have a good say on pay report, of which ties directly back into the advisors. But you know, from the challenge of a comm committee, it's sort of like hitting that balance, you know, finding the balance of, okay, what are the expectations of the proxy advisors, yet I still need to do what's right for my for the corporation on ultimately what will produce what we feel is shareholder value. Talk a little bit about sort of the challenge for the committee first on that balance.
Okay, happy to do it. And that's the key word, the balance, and we're always searching for that, TK. It's, comp committees have become much more complex. It used to be simply the audit committee, but now there's so much that goes into the compensation structure and the review by ISS, by shareholders, et cetera. But at the end of the day, AmSurg, we are committed to doing what's best for the long-term value of the shareholders. It's that simple. We do listen to ISS. We don't always agree with them, but we take into consideration comments that they've made. Say on pay is important to us. Obviously, we want the vote there to for us to pass, but it's we do not let we do not let their comments dictate a final decision for us. We take into consideration what they say. We debate it internally. We consult with our third-party consultants, and then we come up with what we think is best for our shareholders and the long-term viability of the company, including compensation for executives for recruitment and retention.
Yeah. Well, directors should always listen, regardless of who the source is. Just, I don't think they've ever cornered the market on every aspect of the business. So it's always nice to hear from somebody. Obviously, ISS takes that to the extremes, you know, at times. On that, but they're just trying to do their part as well. So let's take it now from the committee to your job as the comp chair. And again, you're right on explaining that this has changed significantly. Comp chair and the comp committee weren't near in the focus, you know, like they are today. And today, you know, I've heard people say, which you'd never ever hear, I'd rather serve in the audit committee than the comp committee. That was something that nobody ever said, you know, in the past. But so that's the way things have changed. But what are some of the challenges to you specifically as a chair as you try and coordinate your team, you know, which is your committee, and then still use the resources internally of the HR department and probably legal and what else you have to do? What are some of the key challenges for you as chair?
Well, I think the theme here today is going to be balance, and while we balance the information that we receive from ISS, we want strong personalities, we want strong people in terms of their experience levels on any committee, but on the comp committee. But I think as chair, one of the biggest challenges for me is making sure we balance having everybody not only have their input, but at the end of the day, coming to an agreement that we all are comfortable with from committee members, management, as well as satisfying shareholders and ISS. So that would be one of the greatest challenges that I faced being board chair, comp chair.
Yeah. It's interesting, you know, again, our reference to how things have changed. There's a lot of discussion we hear about chair rotation. And when I think of that, I think, boy, I hope people aren't rotating too quickly, because in whether you're chair of the audit committee or now chair of the comp committee or even the nom-gov committee, it does take you a little bit to learn, sort of learn that. So my question to you, does AmSurg have a rotation policy? If they don't, what would your suggestion be as far as what's the logical amount of time that you might have for a rotation?
Yeah, this short answer is no, we do not have a rotation policy. Back to your prior question regarding complexity, though, the number 2 issue for me being comp chair would be just getting my arms around it from a historical perspective. Why did we stop issuing options? When did we start issuing SARs? When did we start issuing restricted stock? What's the balance? And having that sense of history, not having sat on the comp committee, then suddenly being chair, wanting to make sure, again, that I extract the historical knowledge from management, from the other comp committee members, balancing that with what the advisory services are looking for. And that's probably the most difficult, that's probably one of the most difficult things that I found, is just understanding why we made a decision previously that's impacting us today that we may want to retain or to change. And this goes into the question that you asked about rotation. I've been in the chair 3 years. I'm finally feeling like I've got my arms around it. Really, literally just in the last month or two, really feeling like I have a total understanding of where we are from a comp standpoint. And not only where we are, but finally feeling comfortable that I've got the leadership and the knowledge of where we want to go leading the comp committee. So while we don't have a regular rotation, well, we don't have a rotation policy, we do have annual board questionnaires, self-evaluations. Right. It has come up in the past, I've been on the board 10 years, it has come up in the past that a majority of the board members felt it was time to rotate committee chairs. So that's some self-policing then and there of itself. If you were to ask me what do I think the right term would be, I'd say 4 to 5 years. Yeah. I'd probably end up at 5 years as a good spot, because it just, again, for me personally, it's taken 3 years to get to this point of comfort where I am today, and I like to be able to take that knowledge and experience for another couple of years leading the comp committee.
Yeah. I've always been a proponent that never should be less than 3, and you've just given support to that in the sense that after 3 you're just sort of feeling like you're in the flow,
right.
You know, of what's going on. Yeah. And even if somebody has, you know, a policy on that, if there isn't somebody that's qualified to do that, why would it sort of amazes me why anybody would force rotation,
right.
You know, that might hurt the board's effectiveness as a whole. It's something that you need to think about. It's something that the nom-gov committee needs to think about. And who are logical replacements, or we
right.
have people in place that have the knowledge to do this. I think that's all part of being on the nom-gov committee. Yes. And being the chair of that. But right. There's no, you know, the way doing annual reviews of the committees is a great way to say, you know, do we need a change, or
right.
you know, what's
right.
happening on that front. So, we like to offer advice, you know, to have people that are on the hot seat sort of give advice to those that are on the that are watching the show. And one of the things I'm going to ask you, Kevin, is, having served as comp chair now for your 3 years, what advice might you pass along to somebody that maybe is a prospective chair, you know, is in line to do that, or is interested in the comp committee and moving through, the possible chairs? What advice would you offer that might be very helpful for them from your experience?
Oh, okay, great question. TK will probably come across as common sense, but I've thought about that question, and first and foremost I would say listen. Just because we have the title of comp chair doesn't mean we have to have all the answers, both from a standpoint of where the company's comp program has been historically as well as going forward. So I would say listen to management, listen to the HR department, listen to your third-party consultant, and then take that knowledge or that guidance and work with your comp committee in terms of where do we want to go. personalities on and I've got a strong personality. At first, when I sat in the chair, I felt like I had to come to each meeting, not only with the answers, but the recommendation. And I felt I'm not sure what the right answer is. So again, just listening and being collaborative with all the parties that impact where you are from a comp committee standpoint.
Well, Kevin, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come join us on the show here. This hits on obviously a very focused and critical topic.
A timely topic.
Yeah, and it's one that shareholders and activists just will not let go of.
Right.
Okay. There's a lot of things that we could talk about, whether TSR and other things are correct. Maybe we'll have to have you back someday so that we can take a look at a more technical side of what's happening. But I want to thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
And that will conclude this edition of This Week in the Boardroom. We hope you'll join us next week when we take another look at a critical topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.
Join us again next week for This Week in the Boardroom, brought to you by NYSE Governance Services, Corporate Board Member, along with Governance Knowledge Partners, the Center for Audit Quality, and Grant Thornton, and contributing partners, National Investor Relations Institute, and the Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals.